Hello and welcome to Throwback Thursday. Today I want to continue along the theme of the sort of wet saddlecloth days and things like that, but I want to sort of talk about why it's so important to have a plan when you set out on your ride or on your training session with your horse. And I'm going to use a few examples that I've seen people sort of without a plan, and then we'll compare that to how you can change the whole situation by setting out with a plan. So if you're going for a trail ride or something, you've got a plan, haven't you? You know you're going to head up through on this track and you're going to do this and you're going to take this long and you're going to go with X, Y, and Z and you're going to have a great time. And that's great. That's a plan. That's really good. You have less of a plan if you just think a wet saddlecloth day or something like that. So what I want to do is talk about horses that I've seen that have been trained without a plan, and I'll tell you how that behavior later shows itself. So I'm going to talk about a couple of horses, first of all, that I met in the UK when I was there. Really interesting to see you here, Lloyd. Hello, being from the UK. And then I'm going to talk about one here as well from Australia. Now, the first one that I came across in the UK was a very interesting horse. This person had done a lot of work with their horse in the round pen, and they'd done a lot of work with a particular trainer. I'm not going to tell you who, because I think you'll guess when I describe what the horse did. Anyway, so they came to my place, a lovely little horse, popped it in the round pen, and they were standing there in the middle, and the horse sort of immediately started trotting circles around, put its head on the ground in trot, and was licking and chewing. And they called it in. And I said, oh, okay, so can you just explain to me what it is you've just done? And they said, oh, well, you know, the horse was showing its submissive behavior, so it understands that I'm the herd leader. And I said, oh, so how did you get that? And they said, oh, because it put its head down, so that's a submissive behavior, and it started licking and chewing, so it's showing me that it's a grazing animal and that it won't hurt me, and so it's allowed to come and stand in next to me. Now, if you've repeated this a lot and the horse knows that when it puts its head down and licks and chews, it gets to rest, then yes, when you put it immediately into the round pen, the horse will have learnt that pattern and it will come and it will drop its head and lick and chew pretty much on the cue of being put in the round pen. So I'm not convinced that anything was being achieved there. So really, for me, that person, that owner, was wasting their time, and they could have spent their time much more productively. It didn't take very long, given the horse had learned the pattern so well. They didn't actually have to do anything to the horse, but I imagine it took a long time to learn that, because you have to actually spend a lot of time chasing the horse to get it to do that. As we know, there's been a number of studies that have shown that you do have to chase the horse for quite a long time. Kruger, there's a study, I think it's 2007, by somebody called Constance Kruger, and she did a study on the round pen, and she was looking for those things. She was looking to find join up, I think. I'm not sure if you actually call it join up or follow up. She was testing whether the horse would follow her, and she was chasing the horses for 30 minutes. Can you imagine chasing the horse for 30 in canter? Most of mine would die. Anyway, I just think, you know, either the horse learns to stick his head down and follow you. I mean, what else is it going to do? If the horse has any sense at all, it is going to come in and stand with you and follow you wherever you go, anything, rather than being chased around the round pen for 30 minutes at canter. All right. So, and then I went another day to a livery yard, so just really close to my place, and I was giving a lesson to somebody. And while I was there, this person had a different type of training. They had a long stick with a string on it, and they had this beautiful little, you know, those English ponies, they're so beautiful, those little cobby sort of hairy ponies are so cute. Anyway, she had this little pony, and it was pretty much asleep in the middle of the livery yard, and it was there for an hour while I gave this person a lesson in the riding arena next to it. And I watched her the whole time. She spent an hour flicking this stick with the string on it over the back of the horse, and the horse was asleep. You know, so it wasn't learning anything. I'm like, oh wow, you spent an hour doing that. I don't know who was impressed, but you could have spent that hour really teaching the horse something useful, you know, which would have been fantastic. And anyway, but they didn't. So the final one is a horse that I met here. And this one was actually an ex-race horse. And he had been, after his racing career, he'd been given to the prison service for a while. And he was used as a, I don't know, therapy horse or something for the prisoners. And they go and they train the horses. And they use a round pen as well. So this one's back to the round pen, more meaningless miles, really. And this horse, by the time he got to me, didn't belong to me. By the time he got to his new owner, I'm not sure how many months he'd spent at the prison, but it was quite some time. And you'd put this one in the round pen and he would just run. He'd canter. You could barely get him to turn. You could barely get its attention. He'd just go in the round pen, I'll go. And this is obviously what he'd learned. This pattern he'd set up really well with this pattern. You know, he'd learned you get in the round pen, you run because you're going to be chased. And the whole environment for that horse was really scary. You know, so we ended up not being able to long line him in the round pen, not being able to do anything really with him in the round pen. We did everything in the arena because that had spoiled everything for him. The whole environment was just too scary. And we forget that the horses are such good pattern learners, and it often doesn't take them very long to learn the pattern. So it's very important that we go out with a plan, because if you go out with a plan, that's your pattern. So the pattern that the first horse in the round pen had learned was it gets into the round pen as soon as it drops its head and licks and chews, it gets to rest. The horse with the stick and the string had learned just to sleep during that because nothing else was going to happen. And the ex-race horse from the prison had just learned to run. So we do need to know what it is we're going to do before we do it and what the outcome is we want from that exercise or that lesson. So I think the what is really important. So let's say we're going to put the horse in the round pen. Let's say we've got a beautiful round pen. We want to use it. Great. Have an aim for that. Let's say that today we want to teach the horse outside turn. So that's turn away from me. Okay. And that would be a good thing because that would be getting the horse to step away from you. Now you could just use your body language to get the horse to do that. So you're achieving quite a lot. You're getting the horse, first of all, to go forward. Then you're getting the horse to stop the forward movement. Then you're using the body pressure to move the horse away from you and ask it to go travel in the other direction. Then you can do the same thing. So you can do outside turns from the left side and from the right side. And the horse will have to learn both those things because they're two different things. So that's how you teach it. You know, how you teach it, you move behind the horse and you ask the horse to move forward. Then you get in front of the horse by moving yourself, stop the horse's forward movement and move the horse in towards the fence so it turns away from you, and then have it travel around in the other direction. Now, to teach something simple like that, now that you know the steps to do it, should take you 5 or 10 minutes. Then you could go off and do something else. But it's a building block for you. So that's the other thing is why? Why would you teach it? So why would you teach outside turns? And outside turns are really useful, actually. Not only do they help you slow the horse in the round pen if you get a horse like the one that had been in the prison, to slow it down or to stop it, an outside turn is going to help you there. The other thing it's really helpful for is shoulder control, because once you're on the ground and you've done your give to the bit work and you're doing your shoulder control work with the horse, to be able to walk into the horse a little bit and get a bit closer to the horse will actually allow or encourage the horse to step one front foot in front of the other and move away from you. So that's a really useful thing for outside turns, very useful. So that might be somewhere you would go next with that. The other thing is, of course, on the where would we go next with something, it's always good to know, you've got to teach something for a reason. I mean, don't just teach outside turns for the sake of it. They've got to be useful. It's like we talked earlier this week about the horse that came back from the breaker, this older lady, and she said, I don't know why, but the breaker taught it to lie down. And it was doing it like all the time. Like, the farrier would come pick up his foot, the horse would drop to the floor. Not useful. Anyway, so what comes next? okay, I've taught my horse outside turns, what comes next? And, you know, good thing to do then might be teach your horse inside turns. And what that'll do is it's completely the opposite thing. So what that will do will engage the horse, because when you first ask it to inside turn, the horse is going to go, oh, I know this, I'll outside turn. It's going to make that mistake. And you can say no and ask again. And the horse then has to start really looking to you for answers, because it's still under pressure. It's still moving around the outside of the pen, and you're asking it to do something differently. And the horse then starts to look for answers. So it is a great way of introducing your horse to negative reinforcement. And the horse learns to search for answers in movement. So it starts to move its feet, and when it starts to move its feet in the direction you want them to go, you release the pressure, and then before you know it, you've got outside turns and inside turns, and then you can start teaching something like come to me. All right, so tomorrow is Friday Fitness, and I will see you here, and until then,